Meanwhile, the UN Security Council has held an emergency session to discuss the U.S. strikes. Iran called the meeting hoping to secure international condemnation of the U.S. attack. Tehran said the U.S. had decided to destroy diplomacy with what it called a blatant and unlawful act of aggression. Russia, China, and Pakistan have proposed a ceasefire in the Middle East, but it's not clear when there might be a vote on the matter. And the head of the UN's nuclear watchdog, Rafael Grossi, told the Security Council that the attacks threatened efforts to stop the spread of nuclear weapons.
Military escalation threatens lives and delays a diplomatic solution for the long-term assurance that Iran does not acquire a nuclear weapon. It also threatens the global non-proliferation regime.
For more, I can now speak to Gaukhar Mukhatzhanova, an expert at the Vienna Center for Disarmament and Non-Proliferation. Gaukhar, welcome to DW. The U.S. is saying that Iran's nuclear program has been obliterated, but Iran denies that. How can we know where things really stand?
Good morning, Nicole. One of the things that Director General Grossi said to the UN Security Council last night is that it's hard to assess the actual extent of damage that was inflicted on Fordo and other sites in the U.S. attack, but especially Fordo. And the site is under the mountain, so it's deep underground. We can see some damage from the satellite imagery, but not know the real extent. And what it's going to take is actual inspectors on the ground. DG Grossi also said that the inspectors of the International Atomic Energy Agency are still in Iran, and they are prepared to conduct their duties, verification duties, once it is safe. So at a minimum, we would need a cessation of hostilities and guarantees that it would be safe for inspectors to go and verify the situation, and an Iranian decision to cooperate with the agency in this regard.
Does the IAEA know the true extent of Iran's nuclear program, or are there maybe sites that not even they are aware of?
I think the agency has a fairly full picture. Iran did submit information about its newest enrichment site just a day or so before the attack, so the agency has not had a chance to work on that and inspect that facility and look deeply into those plans. But otherwise, the verification case in Iran has been going on for decades. There are some questions that the agency still has that are not answered about some of the past activities, some of the nuclear material present at previously undeclared sites. But it's not really a kind of a large hidden program that some of the reports might suggest exists.
Right. There is currently speculation about Iran leaving the non-proliferation agreement. What impact would that have?
I think that would be a serious challenge for the regime. There's been ongoing effort for more than 2 decades to resolve the challenge of Iran's nuclear program diplomatically, and the Non-Proliferation Treaty has been central to that. If at the end of the day we are left with Iran leaving the NPT, citing the extraordinary circumstances and the fact that the regime does not serve its security interests, that could trigger reactions in the region and beyond, and further undermine the trust and faith that the states around the world have in the non-proliferation regime, the centerpiece of which is the Non-Proliferation Treaty. But ultimately, I think for Iran right now, the key priority continues to be regime survival. If they assess that staying in the NPT serves that purpose, I think they're more likely to remain there.
The head of the IAEA, Mr. Grossi, says that military action is precisely postponing diplomacy that could prevent Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons. What do you make of that? Do you agree?
I think that is largely correct, because the Israeli attack came right at the time when US and Iran were planning to meet again to continue the talks that were ongoing. Now, they weren't going great, but there was no immediate breakdown. So now, however, we have a situation where Iran says they're not going to continue talking until the attacks stop, until there is a ceasefire, and we're at an impasse right now.
Just to give our viewers greater comprehension of what Mr. Grossi was talking about, we heard him earlier before you came on. What did he mean when he said that military action threatens the global non-proliferation regime?
Well, it is exactly going back to the state of the Non-Proliferation Treaty, Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. 190 states are party to the NPT. All but 5 of those states countries are non-nuclear weapon states that have committed not to acquire nuclear weapons and to submit all of their nuclear activities and facilities to safeguards implemented by the International Atomic Energy Agency. Iran is one of those non-nuclear weapon states. There have been continuous concerns about its compliance with its safeguards obligations, and the IAEA Board of the Governors recently found that some of its actions were in breach of safeguards obligations. That said, the intelligence assessments indicate that Iran had not restarted its coordinated nuclear weapons program that is believed to have existed prior to 2003. So there was no immediate threat that would have justified the kind of attack that has happened. And so that really undermines the trust that states around the world might have in the validity and in the benefits of being a non-nuclear weapon state party to the NPT. So I think the lack of diplomatic solution, the continuation of military strikes do undermine the non-proliferation regime.
You mentioned earlier that you think that right now the priority for the Iranian regime is survival, and precisely that is being threatened by rhetoric coming out of the White House, where Donald Trump is openly talking about regime change. If that happened, would it bring an end to Iran's nuclear program as well?
The simple, though unsatisfactory answer to that is we don't know. I think regime change in and of itself is not a guarantee. And also there's no guarantee that regime change would be successful. Your previous guest also mentioned that we don't know what kind of regime and leadership would replace the current one. And just a historical note, Iran's nuclear program started under the previous government system, under the monarchy. And even then, in the 70s, there were concerns and questions about its true motivation. So regime change in and of itself is not a guarantee of the end of nuclear weapons effort or interest in nuclear weapons.
That was Gaukhar Mukhatzhanova with the Vienna Center for Disarmament and Non-Proliferation. Great speaking to you today. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.